Welcome to my viewers. If you've ever traveled alone, you know the thrill of new places, the freedom of exploring at your own pace, and sometimes the uneasy feeling that not everyone you meet means well. This story I'm about to share is a chilling reminder of how quickly that excitement can turn into something terrifying, even in a place that should feel safe. A hotel room. I'm a traveler at heart, always chasing new cities, new experiences, but most of my friends either don't have the time or can't afford to fly to dozens of different places like I do. So I often find myself journeying solo, learning to trust my instincts more than anyone else's. One trip, I decided it was time to tick San Diego off my bucket list. Despite visiting many major cities across California, I'd never been there alone before. So I booked a flight and a decent hotel close to downtown. Something comfortable but not too fancy. The kind of place where you feel at ease, but aren't expecting any surprises. When I arrived, the hotel lobby was calm, the kind of quiet you'd expect late in the afternoon. As I checked in, a man caught my eye, a little older than me, maybe in his late 30s or early 40s. He was standing near the front desk and smiled as I approached. Before I knew it, he struck up a casual conversation asking where I was from, how long I'd be staying, and if it was my first time there. He mentioned it was only his second visit, and that he too was traveling alone. He offered to help carry my bags to my room, since he was heading upstairs anyway. It felt like a kind gesture from a fellow traveler, so I accepted. He lifted my bags with ease, and we walked to the elevator together. We rode up to the second floor, and when we reached my room, he set my bags down just outside the door. His voice was warm as he said, "It was great meeting you. Enjoy your stay." I thanked him again, feeling a little more welcome than usual, and he disappeared down the hall. Once inside, I closed the door and laid my bags on the bed. The exhaustion of travel hit me, so I decided to rest for a bit, just a quick nap to recharge. The bed was soft, and the room was quiet enough for me to relax easily. After about an hour, I woke feeling refreshed and ready to explore. I headed down to the lobby, checked out the area outside, and was about to step out for the day, when the woman at the front desk called me back. Her expression was serious. "Did that man help you upstairs?" she asked quietly. I nodded, explaining he'd just carried my bags and said hello. She lowered her voice further and said, "I've been watching him. He's been standing outside the hotel for a while now. Came in right after you did. I don't think he's staying here." A chill ran down my spine. I tried to push down the uneasy feeling rising in my chest. Could she be wrong? Maybe he was just a friendly guy who happened to be alone like me. But her warning was clear. If I saw him again, I should avoid him. I thanked her for the heads up and forced a smile before heading out into the city. For the rest of the day, I tried to push the thought from my mind and focus on the bright sunshine, the ocean breeze, the lively streets of San Diego. I saw colorful murals, ate some amazing street food, and wandered through markets buzzing with people. A few hours later, I returned to the hotel to change into something nicer for dinner. The front desk was staffed by someone different now. Back in my room, I took a quick shower, letting the warm water wash away the sweat and fatigue. Then I changed clothes and decided to lie down again for a short power nap before heading out. Suddenly, there was a soft but firm knock on my door. A male voice called out, "Housekeeping." I frowned. I hadn't requested housekeeping yet. It was only my first day here. Maybe they'd made a mistake. I peeked through the peephole, but the hallway was empty. Not a single person in sight. My heart started pounding. My mind immediately flashed back to that man, the one who helped me with my bags. What if it was him? What if he was trying to get into my room? I took a deep breath and ignored the knocking. I pulled out my phone and dialed the front desk. "Did you send housekeeping to my room just now?" I asked. "No, ma'am," the woman's voice responded. "We haven't sent anyone there." Feeling a mix of fear and frustration, I asked, "Can you please send someone to my room right now? For safety reasons." 5 tense minutes later, a hotel maid knocked gently on my door. I opened it and quickly explained the situation. She gave me a reassuring smile and said she'd keep an eye out while I went to dinner. That night, I tried to shake off the dread as I ventured out. After dinner, I joined a City Lights night tour, hoping the bustling energy would distract me from my fear. I wandered through lively streets, watched neon signs flicker and soaked in the night air. By 10 p.m., I was back at the hotel. At the front desk, I told the woman what had happened earlier, with the strange knocking, and how I feared it might have been the same man from before, pretending to be housekeeping. She checked the live security footage of my floor. To my relief, no one was in the hall. "Try not to worry," she said kindly. "We'll keep an eye out." I thanked her and went upstairs, feeling a little safer but still uneasy. Inside my room, I changed into pajamas and settled into bed. I turned on the TV, hoping the background noise would lull me to sleep. The soft chatter from the screen slowly blurred into a half dream, half reality. Then I heard it, a door closing. It was faint, almost like a whisper, but clear enough to break through the haze of sleep. At first, I thought it was part of my dream, but then the mattress shifted beneath me. Something was there. Someone had climbed into bed beside me. Heart pounding, I turned my head and froze. A man was there, dressed in black, his face hidden behind a mask, and a baseball hat pulled low. He reached for me, grabbing my mouth to stifle my scream. Panic flooded through me like icy water, but adrenaline kicked in. I fought back with everything I had, kicking, twisting, scratching. My scream finally broke free, raw, desperate, loud. He tried to silence me again, but the pounding on the door started almost immediately. "Help, somebody please," I cried. The man's grip loosened. Realizing the situation was spiraling out of control, he shoved the door open violently. The woman who had been knocking fell hard onto the floor. She looked up, eyes wide with fear, just as he darted past her and ran down the hall toward the stairs. Shaken, I collapsed against the wall as the woman rushed inside to check on me. Tears streamed down my face, shock freezing me in place. Soon neighbors gathered, along with hotel staff. Police were called. The footage revealed something terrifying. This man had somehow gotten a master key, allowing him to enter my room unnoticed. The mask and hat concealed his face, but I'm convinced it was the same man who offered to help me with my bags. That first, he likely watched me, learned my room number, and planned to come back. It's terrifying to think he might have done this to others, people just like me, trusting a stranger. The hotel reimbursed me fully and moved me to a different room, but nothing erased the fear that clung to me for the rest of the trip. And even now, I considered pressing charges against the hotel for their security failure, but the police never called me for a lineup or identification. I fear the man slipped through the cracks, free to prey on someone else. If there's one thing I want you to take from this story, it's to always trust your instincts. Be cautious, even when a stranger seems kind. Your safety is worth every extra moment of vigilance. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life experiences and warnings. Stay safe out there. I never thought a simple flight home for Christmas would become one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. If you think airports and airplanes are safe places, think again, because sometimes the nightmare starts even before you take off. This story happened years ago, maybe 2013 or 2014, but it's still burned into my memory, even though I've tried to bury it deep down. I was a freshman in college, far from my family. I attended a university in New York City, while my family lived thousands of miles away in Bulgaria, a small, often overlooked country in Eastern Europe, nestled near Romania and Greece. Bulgaria isn't exactly famous for safety or regulation, but this story might surprise you because it doesn't follow the usual stereotypes. It was just days before Christmas Eve. I was at JFK Airport, the chaos of the holidays swarming all around me. Hundreds of travelers, hustling, dragging luggage, shouting, and rushing to catch flights. Security lines stretched endlessly, Luggage weighed down my arms, and the hours crawled by like slow, heavy clouds. Finally, after what felt like forever, I settled into my seat on the first leg of my journey, a flight from Manhattan to Istanbul. The flight was 8 long hours, crammed into the notorious economy seats that crush your knees and turn your back into a dull ache. But I was ready. I told myself I could handle it. After all, I was going home. I would be back in Bulgaria in less than 48 hours. I was seated between two men. For the record, I'm a small woman, barely 5 feet tall and just over 110 pounds, and these two men towered over me. The one on my right was quiet, glasses perched on his nose, with dark hair and an athletic build that suggested confidence, but calm. But the man on my left, he set off every alarm in my mind. He muttered to himself in a low, barely audible voice, and picked obsessively at the skin on his arms. His movements were jittery, unnatural. At one point, his arm nudged mine. I pulled away slightly, but tried to stay calm. I told myself maybe he had some mental health issues. Maybe he just didn't know how to behave. I focused on the small comforts, my music, a book, and the promise of home. But then the staring began. It wasn't casual or accidental. It was cold, blunt, and unrelenting. He locked his gaze on me for minutes at a time, never blinking. I tried to ignore it. I even gave him the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe he couldn't read social cues. But deep down my heart started pounding with dread. I pulled out my phone and started watching the second season of American Horror Story. I thought immersing myself in something fictional might distract me. Ironically, I chose the season titled Asylum, about cold-blooded killers and mental institutions. That's when he spoke. Why do you watch something that makes the mentally ill look so bad? His voice was low but clear. You know, people think those who skin others alive are crazy, but aren't we all like that? I froze. His words echoed in my mind like a sinister whisper. I forced a nervous smile, hoping to dismiss him. Do you need anything? I asked, trying to sound polite, trying to mask my fear. The flight was long, and the idea of confrontation terrified me. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, with a chilling calmness, I just think it's messed up how people think murderers are insane. Maybe we all have a darkness inside. I laughed nervously, trying to shrug it off like a bad joke, but every second after that felt heavier, darker. I counted down the minutes, praying the flight would end. I even thought about asking a flight attendant for an open seat, but I didn't want to make a scene. My hands trembled as I gripped my bag tightly. When the plane finally landed in Istanbul, I moved as quickly as I could, gathering my things, standing up, walking fast through the crowded aisles. Relief washed over me the moment I stepped off the plane. I wish that had been the end. The rest of my Christmas in Bulgaria was normal enough. Family dinners, laughter, warm hugs. But the man's words haunted me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, like a shadow lurking just beyond the edges of my happiness. Weeks later, as January gave way to February, I was packing my bags to head back to New York. As I emptied my tote bag, something caught my eye. A folded note, tucked deep inside, grimy and crumpled. I didn't remember putting it there. I unfolded it with a sinking feeling. It said simply, I wish I could see what you look like under your skin. My heart slammed against my ribs. Who had slipped this to me? When? And why? I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I was far from home and trapped by circumstance. A month later, I received a message from my younger sister, a link to a news article. The headline was horrifying. The man from the plane, the one sitting next to me on that flight, had been arrested in Istanbul, charged with multiple crimes: rape, attempted rape, kidnapping, attempted kidnapping, and first-degree murder. The reality hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been inches away from someone capable of unspeakable violence. That sickening note was a proof of how close I'd been to danger. Since then, I avoided traveling during holidays. I stayed home, safe but anxious, haunted by the memory of a terrifying stranger and the fragile line between safety and horror. If you found this story chilling or eye-opening, please hit that like button. If you've ever had a travel experience that scared you or made you rethink safety, share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if you want to hear more real-life tales that blur the line between ordinary and terrifying, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and stay safe out there. The day we escaped paradise turned into a nightmare we still can't forget. In the winter of 2018, Claire and I desperately needed a break. The biting cold was relentless, and when the chance came to escape for a whole week, we jumped on it. We booked a 7-day all-inclusive beach resort in Mexico, somewhere with crystal blue waters, endless sunshine, and promises of paradise. The resort was a steal, with a sprawling buffet, 3 shimmering pools, the beach just steps away, and more bars than we could count. They had an entertainment hall and offered tons of group excursions, so we thought, this is going to be perfect. The first couple of days were exactly what we imagined, sipping unlimited drinks poolside, soaking up the sun, and slowly unwinding from the stress of daily life. The air smelled salty and sweet, with a gentle ocean breeze carrying laughter and music. But beneath that postcard-perfect surface, something darker was lurking. By the 3rd day, feeling restless, we wanted to explore beyond the resort's bubble. The jungle and scenic roads just beyond looked inviting in the brochure photos. So we took a private shuttle to the nearest car rental. The driver, a grim-faced man with tired eyes, warned us with a low voice, "Don't stray too far from the coast. There are unsafe areas out there." We nodded, though curiosity mixed with a touch of recklessness pushed us forward. At the rental place, a small weathered building in a quiet town about 5 miles from the resort, we got a Ford Fiesta. It wasn't flashy, but it was ours for the day. No shiny Mustangs or sleek Camaros in sight, just this little car that would become our lifeline. The town itself was modest, with a single long road threading its way past resorts and thick jungle on either side. We headed south toward Tulum, hoping for a glimpse of the famous city that had become almost mythical in the stories our friends told. But Tulum was a letdown. It wasn't the vibrant bohemian paradise we imagined. Instead, it felt dusty, worn down, and oddly empty. The buzz we expected was missing. Unease settled quietly in my stomach. We turned back north, our curiosity still itching. Then we spotted a dirt road curling into the jungle. Without much thought, we decided to follow it. The dirt path stretched wide, surrounded by dense trees that blocked out the sun, casting everything in an eerie, shifting shadow. The jungle on either side seemed to breathe alive and watching. Claire kept glancing nervously at the car's dusty tires, worried about ruining the rental, but I was drawn in by the thrill of the unknown. Still, we agreed it wasn't wise to push too far. Just as we began turning the car around, the shadows ahead suddenly shifted. 3 men stepped out from the jungle, their faces unreadable, but their presence unmistakably threatening. We both said, "Oh no," at the exact same time. My heart hammered as I slowed the car to a stop and lowered the window just a crack. One man approached, speaking fast and sharp in Spanish. I shook my head. "No hablo español." His eyes darkened. Another man knocked insistently on Claire's window, making her freeze. I told her firmly, "Don't open it." The first man repeated a single word, "Money." Then the third man moved toward my window, pulling a knife glinting cold in the sunlight from his pocket. The panic was immediate. I slammed my foot on the gas. The car jolted forward as the men shouted behind us and sprinted after the vehicle. But no matter how fast they ran, the Fiesta outran them. Our breaths were ragged, hearts pounding in terror. As we raced back towards safety, I didn't let up until the dirt road gave way to pavement. Only then did the heavy weight on my chest begin to lift. We returned the car to the resort parking lot, Without another word about exploring, the carefree vacation vibe had shattered. But the nightmare wasn't over. The next day, some of the resort staff recommended a nearby cenote, a natural swimming hole surrounded by jungle, saying it was beautiful and peaceful. We thought maybe this would be safer, a little adventure closer to home. We drove the rental back out, this time to a different dirt road just a short distance away. We followed signs carefully, winding down a tranquil pathway lined with ancient trees and wildflowers, expecting calm and quiet. Instead, something felt off. Not a single other car was parked nearby. The silence around us was thick, not peaceful, but expectant. Then we started to notice sounds, subtle but unmistakable. Rustling leaves, soft footsteps weaving through the jungle, just beyond the tree line. Claire glanced nervously at me. I felt it too. Eyes watching us, not a feeling, but reality. I whispered, "Let's keep moving." We pushed on, following the signs deeper into the greenery. Suddenly, from nowhere, a man appeared, stepping out of the jungle shadows. His eyes locked on us. Spanish poured from his lips again, rapid and urgent. "No hablo español," I said, backing away slightly. He switched to broken English, gesturing for us to follow him. Come, he urged. Claire and I exchanged a glance, tension crackling between us. Something was wrong. We hesitated then, thinking we had no choice. We started following him. The path he took wasn't the one the signs showed. It twisted deeper and darker into the jungle, the canopy thickening above us. Then Claire tapped my shoulder and pointed. The handle of a large knife poked out of his back pocket, cold and sharp against the fabric. I barely had time to whisper, "Run." We bolted. The man cursed and chased after us, but his heavy breaths betrayed his slower pace. Adrenaline surged as we pushed through the jungle, hearts hammering, lungs burning. When we finally burst through the trees and saw the rental, relief crashed over us like a wave. We jumped in, locking the doors. But then the worst happened. From the shadows behind, 3 figures emerged, menacing silhouettes who ran straight for the car, pounding on the windows, trying to break in. Their hands rattled the glass, fingers scraping like claws. Claire was crying, silent sobs shaking her front. I gripped the wheel tight, the weight of helplessness and fear crushing me. Before they could break through, I floored the accelerator. The tires spun, and we tore away from the jungle, leaving behind the terror we couldn't shake. 2 days in a row, 2 terrifying brushes with danger. Our dream escape had twisted into a living nightmare. We returned the car to the rental place, thankfully with no damage except the dirt stains and our shattered nerves. Back at the resort, we told the staff what had happened, hoping they'd warn others, but even their concerned faces couldn't erase the memory of those moments when safety felt like a distant dream. We didn't leave the resort again until the day we flew home. Since then, Mexico hasn't been on our travel list. Even in areas touted as safe and tourist-friendly, we barely escaped 2 attacks that still haunt us. We went looking for paradise, but instead found a shadow lurking beneath the beauty. And sometimes, those shadows are closer than you think. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button, leave a comment sharing your own travel experiences or fears, and don't forget to subscribe for more true stories and thrilling escapes. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe out there.